The price of betrayal. The photograph arrived on a Tuesday morning. No caption, no explanation, just an image sent to her work email from an unknown account. Keisha's hands trembled as she enlarged it on her computer screen, her heart already knowing what her mind refused to accept. Darius, her husband of 12 years, in a hotel room, with Amira Williams, her best friend since college, the woman who had been at her wedding, who had held her hand when she miscarried, who she had trusted with secrets she'd never told another living soul. The woman was in his arms, laughing. The sheets were tangled around their bodies. Keisha's breath caught in her throat. She closed the file, opened it again, closed it again. Denial, anger, despair. All three hit her simultaneously. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Check your email, check your bank account, check your marriage. Keisha had built her life on trust. She had trusted Darius when he promised to be faithful. She had trusted him on their wedding day, standing in a white dress in front of 300 guests, promising to love him for the rest of her life. She had trusted him every single day for 12 years, when he said he was working late, when he said he was going to the gym, when he said he loved her. She had trusted Amira when she swore she would never betray her. Amira had been at every milestone. The day Keisha found out she was pregnant with Zara, the miscarriage 3 years later that nearly destroyed her, the promotion at work, the anniversary dinners. Amira had been there through it all, always smiling, always supportive. She had trusted that love meant something. All of it was a lie. The evidence came quickly after that first photograph. Keisha spent the entire day at work in a state of shock. She couldn't focus. Her boss asked if she was feeling okay. She said she had a migraine. The truth was worse. Her entire world was collapsing around her, and she was sitting at her desk pretending everything was fine. That night, after Zara went to bed, Keisha locked herself in the office and opened her laptop. Bank statements. Lots of them. She had always trusted Darius to manage their finances. He had insisted on it early in their marriage, saying he liked numbers, that he had a knack for investments. Keisha was happy to let him handle it. She had enough on her plate with her job at the marketing firm and managing the household. Now she understood why he had insisted. Regular transfers to something called Pinnacle Hospitality Solutions. Charges at restaurants in the downtown area where she had never been. Places she and Darius had talked about going to someday, but never did. Gift cards purchased at upscale jewelry stores, a monthly membership at a private spa that supposedly didn't exist in their credit card statements. Everything was hidden. Everything was deliberate. She added up the charges from the past 18 months. $42,000. No. Wait. She looked again. Her heart dropped. $123,000. And that was just the obvious charges. The transfers to Pinnacle Hospitality Solutions were significantly larger. In the past year alone, there had been 5 transfers of $20,000 each. That was $100,000 just for those. Total, $223,000 in 18 months. That was nearly $15,000 a month being hidden from her. Keisha's hands shook as she pulled up the savings account they had built together over 12 years. Money they had saved for Zara's college education. Money they had saved for a down payment on a better house. Money they had set aside for their retirement. The balance was wrong. She pulled up the transaction history, one large transfer 8 months ago. $200,000 moved to a new account that Keisha had never authorized, a new account that was in Darius's name alone. "No," she whispered to the empty room. "No, no, no." She searched the desk drawer for the statements for that account. There was nothing. Of course there was nothing. He wouldn't be stupid enough to leave evidence lying around. But there was something else in the drawer. A phone she had never seen before. It was hidden beneath a stack of old insurance papers. A burner phone. Cheap, anonymous, the kind you could buy at any gas station. Keisha opened it. The text messages made her want to vomit. "I miss you. I can't stop thinking about last night," Amira had written. "I know, me too. The way you looked at me," Darius had replied. "When are we going to tell her? I hate lying to Keisha. I hate the guilt, but I can't imagine not being with you." "Soon. Once I move the money, once everything is in place, we'll tell her. She'll fight it, but there's nothing she can do." "What about Zara?" "Zara will get over it. Kids are resilient. And besides, you'll be more fun than Keisha anyway. We can take Zara to the beach. We can travel. Keisha is boring. She's always been boring." "That's not kind." "It's true. You make me feel alive. Keisha makes me feel trapped." Keisha had to get up and run to the bathroom. She was sick, literally sick, everything in her stomach coming up into the toilet as her body rejected the words she had just read. She sat on the bathroom floor for 20 minutes, crying. Not quiet tears, raw animal sounds, the kind of crying that comes from the deepest part of your soul when you realize that everything you believed about your life was a carefully constructed lie. When she finally had control of herself, she returned to the phone. There were more messages, hundreds more. "I've been thinking about your plan, moving the assets. How long will that take?" "Another 6 months. The house is in both our names, but I'm going to negotiate that she keeps it. That's generous on my part, and it will make the judge think I'm being fair. Meanwhile, I've already moved our liquid assets. Once that's done, she'll get the house, but nothing else. No savings, no college fund for Zara, nothing." "That's brilliant. That way she'll be too focused on keeping a roof over their heads to cause real problems." "Exactly. I'll pay child support, the minimum. It won't be enough, but it's what the law requires. And Amira, once we're free, we're going to have the life we deserve." The messages went on. Plans for a wedding, plans for a honeymoon in Bali, plans for a new house in an exclusive gated community, plans for everything that came from the money they were stealing, yes, stealing because that's what it was, from her and from Zara. Keisha found more messages detailing Amira's position at Darius's company. She wasn't just his assistant, she was his partner in something much darker. "The client files from Thompson Industries will be valuable. Can you get access?" "Already done. I have copies of their entire R&D pipeline. How much do you think that's worth?" "On the market? Probably 3 or 4 million. I have a contact at Meridian Corp who will pay for it. They've been trying to break into Thompson's market for years." "That's corporate espionage. It's survival. It's building our future together." Our future together. I love how that sounds. There were photographs attached to some of the messages. Keisha scrolled through them mechanically, each one another knife in her back. Darius and Amira at dinner, looking like a real couple. Darius and Amira in a hotel room, not the first photograph, but taken weeks after it. Darius and Amira kissing in his car. Darius and Amira at what looked like a romantic getaway, somewhere tropical, somewhere beautiful. The final message was from yesterday. "Keisha is getting suspicious. I saw her looking at you funny at that dinner last month. Maybe we should accelerate the timeline." "No, we stick to the plan. Another few months and it will all be done. Then we can tell her whatever we want. What can she do? She'll have no money, no support system. She'll be alone. And Zara? Zara will eventually understand that I was unhappy. Kids adjust. Kids move on." Keisha closed the phone and placed it carefully on the desk. She didn't scream. She didn't cry anymore. She had moved past tears into something colder, something focused. She opened a new browser window and began taking screenshots of everything, the bank statements, the phone messages, all of it. She emailed the files to her personal email account. She called in sick to work the next day. She needed time to think, to plan, to figure out what she was going to do. But even before she did anything else, she made a decision. Darius and Amira were going to pay, not immediately, not in anger, but systematically, methodically, in a way that would destroy them completely. Keisha's first step was hiring a private investigator. She went to 3 different agencies before finding the right person. She wanted someone discreet, someone with connections, someone who didn't judge her. She found all 3 qualities in a man named Marcus Williams, no relation to Amira. Marcus was a former FBI agent in his early 60s. He had steel gray hair, sharp eyes, and the kind of calm demeanor that came from having seen the absolute worst in human nature. His office was in a nondescript building downtown. He charged $1,500 a week, which was more than Keisha had ever spent on anything in her life except her car and her education. She met him in his office on a Thursday afternoon. "I think my husband is having an affair," she said, and the words felt strange in her mouth, like she was lying, like she was describing someone else's life. Marcus listened without interrupting. He took notes. He didn't change his expression or offer false sympathy. When Keisha finished talking, he asked a single question. "Do you want to know the truth, or do you want to protect yourself?" Keisha thought about this. "Both," she said finally. "I want to know the truth, and I want to make sure that when this is over, I've protected myself and my daughter as much as possible." Marcus nodded. "Then we do this right," he said. "It's going to be expensive. It's going to take time. But when we're done, you'll have everything you need." For 2 weeks, Keisha heard nothing from Marcus. She went to work. She came home. She looked at Darius across the dinner table and saw a stranger. She tucked Zara into bed at night and wondered what his betrayal would mean for her daughter's future. She was shopping at the grocery store when Marcus called. "I need you to come to my office," he said. "Today, and maybe bring a friend. You're going to need support for what I'm about to show you." Keisha's hands went numb. She left her cart in the aisle and drove to Marcus's office. Marcus had a conference room set up with a laptop, a printer, and stacks of papers organized into neat folders. "Your husband is cheating," Marcus began, "with a woman named Amira Williams. She works as his assistant at Harrison and Associates marketing firm. They've been seeing each other for approximately 19 months. He opened a folder. There were photographs, hotel entrances, video stills from security cameras, photos of Darius and Amira leaving a boutique hotel downtown, Amira's hand on his arm, photos of them at a restaurant leaning across the table toward each other. "This is the affair," Marcus said calmly. "But that's not the interesting part." He opened another folder. Inside were bank records, account statements, transfer documents, a complex web of financial transactions that made Keisha's head spin just looking at it. "Your husband has been systematically moving assets out of your joint accounts and into accounts in his sole name," Marcus explained. "He's been doing it for approximately 8 months. The total amount is $340,000. Keisha felt the room tilt. $340,000. That was their entire future. That was Zara's college fund. That was their house. That was everything. "There's more," Marcus said. He opened a laptop and pulled up a series of documents. "Your husband and Amira Williams have been selling proprietary information from his company to a competitor called Meridian Solutions. We've traced at least 4 major data transfers: client files, research and development pipeline information, strategic plans, all of it worth millions." That's corporate espionage," Keisha said. "That's a federal crime," Marcus corrected. "And here's the really interesting part." He opened another file and printed out a document. "Amira Williams is not just your husband's assistant. She's also registered as a consultant to Meridian Solutions. She's being paid $100,000 a month for research. That's $1.2 million a year, paid to her through a shell company." Marcus sat back. "Your husband isn't just cheating on you," he said. "He's stealing from his company and his wife, and his girlfriend is actively helping him do both while profiting massively from it." Keisha stared at the documents. "What do I do?" she asked. "That depends," Marcus said, "on how ruthless you want to be." Keisha met with a divorce attorney named Tanya Robinson. Tanya was a woman in her mid-50s, with gray streaked through her dark hair and eyes that had seen too many betrayals to be shocked by anything. She ran her own firm and had a reputation as a shark in family law. She had never lost a high-asset divorce case. Keisha brought Marcus's files with her. Tanya reviewed everything carefully. When she finished, she looked up at Keisha. "This is good," Tanya said. "This is very good. Your husband has left you a gift." "A gift?" Keisha asked. "The evidence of his fraud. This isn't just a cheating case. This is a case with financial crimes, corporate espionage, asset concealment. This gives us leverage." Tanya pulled out a legal pad. "Here's what I recommend," she said. "We're going to file a divorce petition, but we're not just asking for a fair division of assets. We're going to ask for everything. The house, the savings, the retirement accounts, everything. And we're going to provide the evidence that your husband has been hiding assets and committing fraud." "Can we do that?" Keisha asked. "We can do more than that," Tanya said. "We're going to report the corporate espionage to his company's board. We're going to file a separate lawsuit against both your husband and Amira Williams for breach of fiduciary duty and fraud. We're going to provide all of this evidence to law enforcement." Tanya leaned back in her chair. "Your husband made a critical mistake," she said. "He thought he could hide this. He didn't count on his wife being smart enough to hire an investigator. Now he's going to pay for that arrogance." "What about Amira?" Keisha asked. "What happens to her?" Tanya smiled, not a warm smile but a satisfied one. "Amira is going to learn an expensive lesson about karma," she said. The divorce petition was filed on a Monday morning. Keisha had debated long and hard about whether to tell Darius first, whether to give him a chance to explain, whether to try to work things out. In the end, she decided that he had forfeited the right to explanation when he decided to steal from her and their daughter. She decided that he had forfeited the right to a reconciliation when he had texted Amira that Keisha was boring. She decided that he had forfeited the right to anything when he planned to leave Zara with nothing. So instead, she let him find out from a process server who showed up at his office with legal papers. The response was immediate. Darius called her cell phone screaming. "What the hell is this?" he yelled. "A divorce? Keisha, what are you doing?" "Getting a lawyer," she said calmly. "And I suggest you do the same." She hung up. Over the next few weeks, Darius's attitude shifted from anger to panic to desperation. He hired an attorney, a mediocre one, because the good ones in town knew Tanya Robinson and didn't want to oppose her. His attorney sent letters demanding that Keisha withdraw the petition, that they go to marriage counseling, that they resolve this amicably. Tanya ignored every letter. Instead, she filed a motion to freeze all of Darius's assets. The judge, reviewing the evidence of asset concealment and fraud, granted the motion without hesitation. Every bank account, every investment, every financial asset Darius possessed was immediately placed under court control. Darius called Keisha again. "I can't access my money," he said. "What did you do?" "I filed for divorce," she said. "And I provided evidence that you were hiding assets. A judge agreed that you can't be trusted. Keisha, we need to talk about this. We can work something out. We can figure this out." "No," she said. "We can't. Not after everything. Not after reading your messages to Amira. Not after discovering that you were planning to steal from me and our daughter." She hung up again. The next phase was Tanya's legal offensive. She filed a separate lawsuit against Darius and Amira Williams for fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and conspiracy to commit theft. The lawsuit sought damages of $5 million, $2 million in actual damages, and $3 million in punitive damages. Amira's response was to hire an attorney and deny everything. That was her mistake. Because Tanya had the phone records. She had the bank statements. She had the messages between Darius and Amira detailing everything they had done. Amira's attorney, realizing what they were dealing with, immediately recommended a settlement. Amira didn't want to settle. She wanted to fight. So Tanya filed additional complaints, this time with the SEC, the FBI, and the IRS. She reported the corporate espionage to Harrison and Associates. She provided all the evidence to the company's board. Darius's company launched an internal investigation within hours of receiving Tanya's complaint. They brought in forensic accountants and cybersecurity specialists. What they found was worse than anyone had anticipated. Amira hadn't just stolen client files. She had installed malware on company servers. She had copied entire research databases. She had been sending confidential information to Meridian Solutions for over a year. The amount of intellectual property stolen was valued at approximately $8 million. The board of directors fired Darius immediately for his role in the scheme. They fired Amira next. But more importantly, they informed Darius that they were filing criminal complaints with federal law enforcement. Darius suddenly realized that he wasn't just facing a divorce. He was facing potential federal prosecution for corporate espionage and wire fraud. He called Tanya's office. "I need to meet with Keisha," he said. Tanya set up a meeting at her office with Keisha present and Darius accompanied by his attorney. Darius looked terrible. He had lost weight. There were dark circles under his eyes. He looked like a man who had aged 10 years in a matter of weeks. "I'm willing to settle," he said immediately. Tanya pulled out a document. "Here are our terms," she said. "You withdraw your counterclaim. You sign away all rights to the house. You sign away your interest in the retirement accounts. You agree to pay child support of $4,000 per month until Zara turns 18. And you agree to a cash settlement of $250,000. Darius stared at the document. "That's everything," he said. "Yes," Tanya agreed. "That's everything," which is appropriate because that's what you tried to steal. "Amira will never agree to the amounts we're asking for in the other lawsuit," Darius said. "I'm not concerned about Amira," Tanya said. "Her assets are being traced. We've found evidence of money laundering. She's looking at federal charges. She'll be lucky if she has the resources to feed herself, let alone pay a settlement." Darius put his face in his hands. "The company is going to press charges," he said, "against both of us. We're looking at federal charges, prison time." Tanya showed no sympathy. "Then I suggest you hire a good criminal defense attorney," she said. "And I suggest you think very carefully about whether you want to cooperate with the federal investigation in exchange for a more lenient sentence." Darius looked at Keisha. His expression was unreadable. Maybe he was hoping she would show mercy. Maybe he was hoping that after 12 years of marriage she would speak up for him somehow. Keisha met his gaze without flinching. "You made your choice," she said quietly. "Now live with it." The FBI took over the investigation 2 weeks later. Special Agent Deshaun Jackson was assigned to the case. He was thorough and professional. He reviewed all of Tanya's evidence and authorized a series of search warrants. Agents showed up at Darius's house with a warrant. They seized his laptop, his backup drives, his financial records. They found evidence of even more financial crimes than anyone had realized. They also showed up at Amira's apartment. Amira tried to run. She booked a flight to the Bahamas. She withdrew $40,000 in cash from a hidden account. She packed a suitcase. She was arrested at the airport with a fake passport and a one-way ticket. The news cycle was brutal. Local marketing executive charged with corporate espionage. Affair between married man and coworker reveals major fraud scheme. Woman discovers husband's infidelity and systematically dismantles his life. Keisha's face was broadcast on the evening news. Not because she had done anything wrong, but because the human interest angle, a wronged wife who fought back, was too compelling to ignore. Her friends rallied around her. Her family rallied around her. But there were also people who judged her, who said that she had been too aggressive, that she should have just taken the settlement and moved on quietly. Keisha didn't care what they thought. She was too busy rebuilding her life. Amira's case was resolved first. She accepted a plea deal that included 4 years in federal prison for corporate espionage, plus restitution of $2 million to her former company. She had no assets to speak of, so the restitution was essentially symbolic. She would spend the rest of her life paying it off. Her family disowned her. Her mother gave a tearful statement to the press, saying that Amira had broken her heart. Her father resigned from his position at the country club, unable to face the shame. Darius's case took longer. He faced 23 counts of fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy. His attorney negotiated a plea deal that resulted in 8 years in federal prison, probation upon release, and full restitution of the stolen funds. He was sentenced on a cold February morning. The judge, addressing him from the bench, said, "You had a wife. You had a daughter. You had a successful career. And you threw it away for greed and lust. I hope it was worth it." Darius was led away in handcuffs. The final divorce decree was signed on a Tuesday afternoon. Keisha and Tanya reviewed it one final time in the attorney's office. Keisha received the house free and clear. She received $150,000 in the settlement, money that Darius's company had agreed to pay to make the corporate espionage case go away quietly. She received full custody of Zara, with Darius obligated to pay $4,000 per month in child support until Zara turned 18. She received an additional settlement from the lawsuit against Amira, though Amira had no real assets. The judgment was now on the books, and Amira would be paying it for the rest of her life. Tanya handed her the signed documents. "You won," Tanya said. "You won completely. Your husband is going to prison. His girlfriend is going to prison, and you got everything." Keisha looked at the documents. She should have felt triumphant. She should have felt vindicated. Instead, she felt tired and sad and hollow. Not because she regretted what she had done. She didn't. Darius deserved what was happening to him. Amira deserved what was happening to her. But the victory came at a cost. She had lost her husband, not the man he revealed himself to be, but the man she thought he was. She had lost her best friend, and she had to grieve for the friendship she thought they had, which had never actually existed. She had lost her sense of security, the knowledge that her life was stable and her future was set. And Zara had lost her father, not because he died, but because he chose a path that led away from her. Zara had taken the news harder than Keisha expected. Even though Darius had betrayed them both, Zara still loved her father. She still wanted him in her life. But Zara was also smart enough to understand that her father had tried to take away her college fund, smart enough to understand that his girlfriend had been helping him steal from her mother. She didn't cry when the truth came out. She got angry. She threw herself into her studies with a fury that both impressed and worried Keisha. She got straight A's. She joined the debate team. She volunteered at a legal aid clinic. When she was accepted to Howard University Early Decision, she wrote an essay about her father's crimes and how they had motivated her to become a prosecutor specializing in financial crimes. Keisha read the essay and cried, this time tears of hope rather than despair. "You're going to do amazing things," she told Zara. "I'm going to make sure what happened to us never happens to anyone else," Zara replied. Keisha used her settlement money to launch a nonprofit called the Betrayed Woman's Fund. The organization provided free legal consultation to women going through divorces involving financial infidelity. It provided support groups. It provided financial literacy classes. Within 2 years, the organization had served 340 women. Within 5 years, it had expanded to 6 chapters across the country. Keisha became a speaker. She was invited to universities to talk about financial abuse in marriage. She was invited to law conferences to speak about how to identify and prosecute financial crimes. She became the face of female empowerment in the aftermath of betrayal, and she met someone new, a kind, honest man named Jerome, who valued her and treated Zara like she was his own daughter. They got married in a small ceremony with just close family and friends. There was no elaborate wedding, no expensive reception, just two people choosing to build a life together, with their eyes open, with no illusions, with the kind of love that comes from having survived something terrible and choosing to believe in happiness again. Darius wrote to Zara from federal prison. Zara burned the first letter without reading it. She burned the second one too. By the third letter, Keisha encouraged her daughter to read it. "You might regret it later if you don't," Keisha said. "Not because I think he deserves your forgiveness, but because closure is something you do for yourself, not for him." Zara read the letter. It was rambling and self-pitying. Darius talked about how prison was changing him, how he had time to think about his mistakes, how he regretted everything. But he also made excuses. He talked about how stressed he had been at work, how he hadn't felt appreciated, how Keisha had been distant. Zara stopped reading halfway through and threw it away. "He's not sorry," she said. "He's just sorry he got caught." She never responded to any of his letters. Years later, when Darius was released from prison on probation, he tried to contact Zara. She blocked his number. When he tried to reach out through social media, she blocked him there too. Zara had moved on. She had built a life that didn't include him. 5 years after the divorce was finalized, Keisha ran into Amira at an airport. Amira was older, thinner, harder looking. She was carrying a suitcase and looking over her shoulder nervously. For a moment, they locked eyes. Keisha could see the devastation in Amira's face, the weight of the consequences she had to carry every single day. Amira looked away first. She hurried past Keisha without a word. Keisha didn't feel vindicated. She didn't feel happy or satisfied. She just felt sad for Amira. Sad that Amira had thrown away her own life for a temporary affair with a married man. Sad that some lessons could only be learned the hard way. 10 years after the affair was exposed, Keisha was invited to give a TED Talk about financial infidelity and empowerment. The auditorium was packed. There were women in the audience who had been through similar situations. There were lawyers. There were students. There were men and women interested in understanding the psychology of betrayal. Keisha stood at the podium and told her story, not in a way that glorified revenge, not in a way that was bitter or angry, but in a way that was honest. She talked about the pain of betrayal. She talked about the anger that had driven her. She talked about the moment when she realized that revenge, while satisfying, didn't actually heal the wound. What healed the wound was rebuilding, reconnecting, choosing to believe in love again despite having been hurt. "The most powerful thing a betrayed person can do," Keisha said, "is not to destroy the person who hurt them. It's to build a life that's so good, so full, so meaningful, that the betrayal becomes just a chapter in a much larger story." She talked about Zara, now a law school student at Harvard. She talked about Jerome, who had shown her that there were still good men in the world. She talked about the hundreds of women her organization had helped. "I didn't win because I destroyed Darius and Amira," Keisha said. "I won because I refused to let their betrayal define me or my future. I won because I got my life back, and in doing that, I got myself back." The standing ovation lasted for 5 minutes. Darius was released from federal prison on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. He had served 8 years. He had been a model prisoner. He had completed anger management classes and therapy. But when he walked out of the prison gates, he had nowhere to go. His family had disowned him. His friends had moved on. His daughter wouldn't speak to him. He found a job at a warehouse for $12 an hour. He rented a 1-bedroom apartment in a part of town where nobody knew his name. Sometimes he would see Keisha's name in the news, another organization she had founded, another TED Talk she had given, another award for her work in helping betrayed women. He would think about what he had lost. He would think about Zara, now a prosecutor working in financial crimes, and wonder if his daughter ever thought of him. He would think about the life he could have had if he had just been honest, if he had just communicated with his wife, if he had just been faithful. But it was too late for all of that. He had made his choices, and now he had to live with them. Amira fared worse. She was released from prison after 4 years, and nobody wanted to hire her. Employers did background checks. They found her mugshot. They found the news articles. They found her name associated with corporate espionage. She tried to change her name, but her records followed her. She tried to move to a new city, but the internet is forever. Eventually, she gave up trying to hide from her past. She moved to a small town and got a job working the register at a grocery store under her real name. Sometimes customers would recognize her, would whisper, would point. She lived a quiet, anonymous, unremarkable life. She never married. She never had children. She never built anything of significance. She just existed, carrying the weight of her mistakes for the rest of her life. This story is not about revenge. It's about accountability. It's about the consequences of our choices. It's about the truth that betrayal has a cost, not just for the person who is betrayed, but for the person who does the betraying. Keisha didn't destroy Darius and Amira out of hatred or spite. She simply told the truth and let the truth do what truth does: expose lies, reveal consequences, and force people to reckon with what they've done. Darius could have confessed. He could have faced the consequences of his actions with honesty and humility. Instead, he tried to hide, to manipulate, to steal his way out of the mess he had created. And in doing so, he guaranteed that the consequences would be far worse than if he had simply been honest from the beginning. Amira could have ended things with Darius. She could have stepped back from the corporate espionage. She could have been honest with Keisha. Instead, she doubled down on the lies. And in doing so, she guaranteed that everything she had, her career, her family, her reputation, her future, would be taken away. The most powerful person in this story was not the one who took the most. It was the one who told the truth. The most powerful person in this story was Keisha. And her power came not from revenge, but from refusing to be silent, from refusing to accept lies, from refusing to be erased, from standing up and saying, "This happened to me, and I'm not going to pretend it didn't." Because every action has a consequence, and sometimes the most powerful form of justice is simply telling the truth and letting the world decide what to do with it.